first off, I apologize for not getting my full lighting set up or my lav mic for this, but I'm actually between work assignments, so I just wanted to shoot this really quick to give a bit of an update about what's been happening, and particularly why some of my larger videos haven't been coming out as soon as I would like them, and probably as soon as you would like them. I've been working on the Seiken Densetsu video for some time, but my time has been divided and mostly allocated to another thing that's been going on. I've been looking for a new place to live. Well, specifically, I and my fiance have been looking for a new place to live. And we just recently found a place, because we weren't going for apartments, we were going for a house. And we finally got something. This has been going on for 6 or 7 months. And I think in all, we saw something around 130 different homes. Because you may have heard that the housing market is ridiculous, but what exactly does that mean? Well, it means a few things, and this is a bunch of anecdotal evidence of what we've been going through for the past few months. First off, the usual supply of homes is still really limited compared to what it would be year over year. So that means demand is here, supply is down here. And it's only recently started to equal out, but demand is still much higher than the supply. Which means people who were selling the homes, several of them are taking advantage of it by deliberately pricing their homes lower and then basically turning it into an eBay auction where you don't know what everybody's bidding. So there are people who are going like 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 over the list price of the home, which I'm not rich. So I see a home that's, let's just say a home is advertised for 230,000. It actually ends up going for like 270, 75, sometimes 80,000. And at that point, someone like me can't afford that. Something else that's been happening is there are people who are paying for homes entirely in cash. Usually you get something called a home loan, where you agree to pay off the total price of the home over a set amount of time, usually 30 years, for example. There have been people coming in and buying homes with 100% cash upfront payments, which again leaves people like me SOL. There are times that offers like these came in before the listing of the home actually showed it was active. There was actually one particular instance where there was a home that we were going to look at that said it was coming soon and gave a specific date. The day of that date, somebody, and this is how it was described to me, drove up to the home, didn't even go into the home or otherwise look at the interior of it, and just made an all-cash offer on it. That is the kind of stuff we've been dealing with for half of a year. And then there's just dealing with houses that just plain weren't well taken care of, or that the owners ignored the stuff that's wrong with it and are still trying to capitalize on the market. There was one home that I visited. It was listed for $200,000. It was a home that was built in the 1950s. The carpet was really uneven. There was evidence of parts of the floor rotting. The ceiling was kind of falling apart depending on what room you went into. And the layout of the home was such that we went into the kitchen and we couldn't tell where the fridge would go. All the appliances were gone. Then we go into another part of the home and the real estate agent who was with me said, "Oh God, we gotta get out." And I go, "Why?" And she points to the ceiling and goes, asbestos tile. There was another home we went to where the lawn was all overgrown, and the moment we got in, there was this weird like metal sheeting on the ceiling. That was something that's used to cover up asbestos. And then we got further into the home, started going to the basement, and before you even got to the basement, you could tell there was a trail of mold leading further into the basement. And that's when the agent just said, we're getting out of here. That home was priced at $220,000, I think it was? $220 or $230 for mold and asbestos. And then there was another home we went into where there were seemingly random holes in the walls, probably from running cable. Got to the basement, and there were two things you look for in a basement. Two major problems, at least. The one that we found in this place was the agent told us, come look at this wall. We go over to the wall, and the wall, instead of being straight up like this, is like this. And there's a deep crack along the top of it. The wall was caving in. And to make matters worse, along that same wall was a gas pipeline. So, however much you think that would cost to fix, probably isn't enough. And then there was another house we went to that otherwise looked really nice, and was within our price range, but it had rained earlier that day, which if you're ever house hunting, go on a day when it rains. Because we got into the basement, and water was leaking through the wall. Now, you might think, what does that mean? It means you can get mold growing in your basement, which you don't want to breathe that. It means the structural integrity of the wall and the basement as a whole can be compromised. And yeah, you do not want like any water leaking in the basement. There were homes we went to that before we even walked in, like I remember one home we walked up the steps, I looked to the side, and part of the house was like overhanging a bit over the garage, and I could see from the underside there was a pile of sawdust underneath it, and I thought, were they working on the home? I look under it. No, it was carpenter bees. I'll pay for a home, but I'm not paying for the bees to come with it. There's another home we went to, all the doors were the wrong size. So some of them you almost couldn't close unless you like really forced them shut. Some of them the doors were too small, which is an insulation problem. There was one home we went to where it seemed okay, open up one of the closets, mold all over the wall. So that's what I and my fiance and our agent have been dealing with for the past 6 months-ish. But finally, we managed to find a place we liked that didn't have any of those major problems with it. And the offer on the home got accepted. So in about a month, all of this is going to change. And that's difficult for me to put into perspective because I've been living in this particular place for years now. And prior to getting here, it seemed like I was having one calamity after another where I had to keep moving between apartments. And I've just been living in apartments since I graduated from college, like over a decade ago. Prior to being here, technically it was a house I was living in, but I was basically renting a room in it from someone. And then I moved to an apartment, and then that apartment, the ownership group like sold it to somebody else, and then they made a bunch of changes, including jacking up the rent and taking away my parking. So I was forced to move again, and that's how I wound up here. And then prior to living in that house, I was in a home with someone, got kicked out, and almost wound up living out of my car. But yeah, I've always said that life comes first before the videos, and this is one of the more extreme examples of that playing out. Don't worry, I am still working on this. And in fact, this got a little more complicated because Sort of like with Trials of Mana. Something got announced for this as I was working on it, so now I have to add that back into what I was working on. But that's the current state of things. That's what's been going on. That's why certain projects are taking longer than I want them to. And it's going to be a hectic month or so. Then probably another hectic month or so as I'm getting moved in, settled in, figuring out where everything goes. And yeah, I'm hoping this is the last time I have to move in a long time. By the way, the Command & Conquer Remaster, I'm working my way through it. I'm enjoying it, but some of the AI in it is, I think, worse than the original Command & Conquer. There's one mission in particular on here where the AI is just absolutely brutal. But overall, I'm enjoying it. I haven't actually gotten to the Red Alert portion of it yet, but I look forward to reflecting on my perception of the Einstein actor when I initially played it versus how it looks now. Also, tank escort plus APC full of engineers plus enemy base. Winning strategy.